concern ourselves with. So below the skin, immediately below it, most of us have a fatty layer, and this is called the hypodermis. Hypo just means below, and so hypodermis is below the dermis. Okay, so this fatty layer is shown here. It's this material right here. This is also what people call subcutaneous fat. Subcutaneous just means below the skin. Remember that the skin is the cutaneous membrane. Okay, so if you have a subcutaneous injection as opposed to an intramuscular injection, they're injecting into this area down here where you've got a lot of fat. Then above that, most of this is dermis here, and then you have this layer of epidermis at the top. This structure right here is the hair. Okay? So the thing in the middle here is the hair itself. So that's the shaft of the hair. As it grows starting down here. So this area here is the root. This swollen area here is the hair bone. This little projection of dermis right here is called a hair papilla. And this whole structure, the entire thing, all the way along there, is a hair follicle. All of our hairs have two things associated with them. They have this, which is the erector pili muscle. Smooth muscle tissue. It's involuntary, so we don't have any conscious control over it. And then these structures right here are called sebaceous glands.
Is that what makes your hair like greasy and oily?
Exactly right. Okay. So sebaceous glands secrete oil. They have a process called holocrine secretion where they don't just secrete the oil into the lumen of the gland and have it come out. They actually shed entire cells, bags full of oil into that. And then the shed oils essentially lubricate that hair as it's coming out. And its job is basically waterproofing. Okay, so it's there to help create a waterproof coat. Mink, beavers, otters, they secrete considerably more of this oil than we do. And this allows them to spend a great deal of time underwater in freezing conditions. So, for example, if you go down south to Beaver Marsh, which is in Cuyahoga Valley National Park, in the winter, there's a good chance you might see some river otters there, especially if it's early morning or late evening. And they will actually dive underwater under the ice, swim around and grab crayfish and fish and things like that. They're active all year round. Mink, which are present everywhere in Ohio, anywhere you've got waterways, rivers and streams, you'll find mink, even ditches. And they also are active all year round in the wintertime. They will dive underwater, catch crayfish and fish and things like that. So they're able to do that because of these oils. What happens is oils have very low conductivity for heat. Water conducts very easily. If we dive into, say you do something silly, you go to Edgewater in February and you walk out on the ice and you fall in, okay? You will lose your body heat very rapidly. You've muscular, and have a fairly thick layer of clothes on, you might last a bit longer. But, you're not gonna last very long. We don't have the coating that these guys do. We don't, not only do we not have the fur, we don't have the oil. When swimmers, swim in the wintertime in cold waters, for example, swimming the English Channel used to be a really big deal. So the channel between England and France, they would cover themselves with axle grease at the toe, and swim. And they might even stop partway to recover with more axle grease. And that kept the heat from conducting out into the water. So that oil also acts as a very tiny, tiny fraction of thermal regulation for us in cold conditions. But mostly it's just there as waterproofing, helping shed the water. Okay, over here,
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When you like lose your hair,
Mhm.
do you still secrete those oils?
yeah, but not as much, because the follicles are still there, but this part down here is usually dead, or dormant. So oftentimes it could be restarted, but it's gone dormant mainly. So here is a sweat gland, and I'm okay with you calling it a sweat gland. You don't have to use the technical term. This is actually an eccrine sweat gland, ECCRINE. So just thing about sweat glands, they secrete an aqueous solution, so not oils, but water. Sweat glands are located just about everywhere. They do not associate directly with hair follicles, even though you've got them in between all your hair follicles, but they're not dumping into the hair follicles. They go right to the surface of the skin. And basically their job is to cool you off. So the water is produced all the way down here, and it's water and solutes, mostly salts, a little bit of urea. And then it gets pushed out through this tube, this duct, just by hydrostatic pressure. So if you start filling up water down here, it's gotta go somewhere, so that's where it goes. As soon as it hits the surface of your skin, in most conditions, it just evaporates, so you never even know it's there. However, if it gets really, really humid, like it's supposed to this afternoon, and you exert yourself at fairly high temperatures, you'll notice the sweat starting to bead and maybe even stream or drip off of your body. And that's because it doesn't have a chance to evaporate. It's being produced in large amounts, and the humidity prevents rapid evaporation. It's still shedding the heat, but it's just doing it less effectively. Okay. Anything else?
Is there a particular reason why we don't have, like, grow hair on our, like, the palms of our hands and feet?
So we don't have hair follicles there,
Like,
for starters. I mean, that's the way our body's differentiated. We didn't grow hair follicles in that area. And
is it just, like, not a purpose, like?
well, it would be rather annoying
Well,
to have
no,
hair on
I
a
mean,
paws.
but, like, doesn't hair grow everywhere else?
Almost. Yeah, there are certain areas where hair doesn't grow, but those areas just lack the follicles. And we do have, we may actually have the follicles, but they don't produce hair, because we do secrete oils, but that may also be coming from the keratinocytes. I'll have to look into that. Okay, that's random. So sweat glands. So most of the sweat glands over most of the body are eccrine sweat glands. They secrete water, urea, sodium chloride, potassium chloride, calcium chloride, and whatever other sorts of solutes you have. Very small solutes, mineral solutes, electrolytes, basically what you have. Which is one of the reasons why if you exercise a lot, they recommend you don't drink distilled water to rehydrate yourself. And actually you should avoid things like Gatorade and all the other sorts of sports drinks for two reasons. One is that they're basically full of sugar. And while that's not going to hurt you, because if you're exercising, you're going to use the sugar right away, they don't basically provide enough fluid. They don't actually rehydrate, and more importantly, they don't provide the salts you need. So instead, what they recommend is if you're going to hydrate like that, you should also eat something as well, preferably something that's really salty, so chips or what have you. Even though it's junk food, that salt will help replenish the salt that you're losing through all that sweat that you're producing. The other thing is a lot of the sports drinks have caffeine in them, and that caffeine acts as a diuretic. So it basically makes you pee more, which means you even lose even more fluid that way. So it's also recommended to avoid caffeinated drinks during the workout and right after, because it will basically cause you to lose even more fluid. You have a different type of sweat gland though, located in the axillary region, so armpits, and inguinal region or groin. These are called apocrine sweat glands. And in addition to the watery secretions, they also secrete